So you're publishing out your back door, and then is that how you came in contact with Jack Saunders? Did you trade zines with him? And I guess when you sit back, the webcam right now is kind of cutting off your head a little bit, but when you sit back, I think we'll take care of it. Yep. Were you trading zines with him? How did you come to know Jack?
Lord, I think I was just reading in the underground world. But I suppose I got a feeling for underground literature the more I got into zining, sharing ideas with underground people. And then someone gave me the tip for Jack. Okay. Actually, I think it was an African-American bookseller.
Okay.
I was going to her shop and going into Bukowski and digging around to things that were underground and not so common. And she said, "You might like this guy." And I think she might have said, "I don't."
Right.
You might. And he's an edgy alternative underground guy.
Okay.
And it was hard for me at first because he writes about difficult things, and it was edgier, I felt, than even published underground or less common work. Like Charles Wilford writes hard-boiled kind of crime novels, and crime novels were a genre that writers like Elmore Leonard were really, they were celebrities writing in that field.
Right.
Charles Wilford was tougher and really creative and less well-known than Elmore Leonard. Well, Jack Saunders started to work in that genre, and he was even lower than Charles Wilford.
Right.
Never did make it in. But he wrote in that way. And Wilford made people uncomfortable. I mean, he wrote stuff that was just a little bit too edgy. But some movies were made of his work. Cockfighter was a cult movie made of his work. But Jack Saunders never got there. But he was, difficult to read, but it hooked me in the end.
Cool.
So, and a lot of zining and underground stuff was difficult. I mean, it's where the crazies were.
Right.
And you'd see outrageous things that were meant to shock. And
right.
I even learned about cinema that was shocking.
Right.
Also at that time. And due to Crazy Carl, I didn't realize that I would like wrestling.
Right, pro wrestling.
But Carl helped me see the story of wrestling and what wrestling was about.
Right.
It was and then I could appreciate it more.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was fun.
So you're doing your own zine. It's the 1990s. Were you sending it to Fact Sheet 5 and Zine World? I think you were, at least Zine World. Were you in Fact Sheet 5 as well? Like trading zines? Okay.
Yeah. I got reviews in the underground reviewing world. I got reviews, and then I would trade zines with people around the world. And also, I learned about the business. I had a circulation of like 2,500, 3,000 at one point. So it was a fairly booming zine.
Yes.
And I got distribution at Whole Foods around the country.
Okay.
And thanks to Doug Biggert at Tower Records, I was in Tower Records.
Wow.
Like everywhere around the country, and then in the UK, and maybe anywhere else there was Tower Records.
Maybe even Japan. I think they had one in Tokyo at one point, if I remember correctly. Wow. That's awesome.
He was awesome. That Biggert guy was cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
He pushed the limits and was aggressive for creativity and print. I think Fantagraphic was something he helped grow into something bigger.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, he helped them a lot. So I learned about marketing and distribution. So that was a way that I thought I could help the ULA.
Right.
And I had a pretty good website, for a while.
Right. For sure.
I made a website for the ULA. I mean,
right.
No one was thinking of it at that time.
No. In fact, Wencless was against it. A lot of them were kind of Luddites at that time. Yeah, they did not want anything to do with this internet thing. Did not trust it. Yeah.
Right.
So how did you meet Wencliffe? Did you know him from Michigan before? He's from the Detroit area, or did you meet him through zines?
Yeah, it was just through zines.
Okay. And Kostecki was also a Michigan, so a lot of Michiganders and Michiganders in the ULA.
Yeah, especially early on. Yeah, how did that get traded around? It must have been through, like, Backsheet 5 sort of thing.
Okay. So that how did you find out about the Amato Opera House, or were you involved in some of the earlier stuff they had done, the ULA, or was that your first kind of in-person involvement?
I think it was the first in-person thing
Okay.
that ULA did. So, yeah, we were just trading stuff otherwise through the mail, which then segued to email and online disputes with people.
Right.
The project, I think I just started getting chunks of the King Wernklitz thing and Steve Kostecki's thing. I would get piles of things from people, from Jackman.
Okay. Mike Jackman. Yep.
Yeah, and then I would put it on my website. I would put it in my zine that I had this inventory. So I started, just people would put orders in for it, for these $1 zines, and I would send it out with my stuff.
So you were the distributor, basically. Is that how the website got started? It was a fan site originally because of their reluctance, but it gradually became the official kind of house organ on the internet.
Right. And we listed the books on the website, and we listed zines. There were quite a few zines associated with ULA at one point.
Yes.
There might have been 6 in-house and probably 6 from other people we were promoting.
Right.
So it's, we were going to people, reaching out to people and saying they were cool, even if they weren't involved with us. Like,
right.
Look at that. And I think Lisa Carver was one of those,
Mm-hmm.
and Comet Bus was probably one of them. We were into the zine world.
Yeah, there were even some people who performed at the shows who weren't in the ULA, like Reverend Rich Mackin did that. I don't know if Colin Carter was ever an official member. He might have been, but there were even just kind of the kindred spirits that for some reason didn't sign up but were affiliated at an event or something.
Yeah, it was a good party there for a while.
Yes. And then the internet thing with what do you remember about the flame wars, we'll call them, where people get these debates with MFA people or literary people or publishing people? Those would get pretty fierce, for sure.
Oh yeah, it got pretty bonkers. We would try to take the high road. That was the ULA stance, but I think just by existing, it was poking people.
Yes.
And they would get hungry. People who were official people would really get angry at us.
Right.
All we had to do was just say things.
Right. Yeah, they don't take criticism well. It was like a news thing. Probably 60 Minutes. My parents were listening to it, and it was eBay that somebody criticized the CEO's multi-million-dollar salary, and he sent like 7 eBay employees to hassle her or something like that, and they were stalking these little website, online newsletter folks, and yeah, so some people just can't take criticism. In some ways, I think what happened to ULA, the publishing people, or they were pranking them and they were hassling Wencliffe. They were, it was kind of cruel. These rich and powerful people, hassling these people who are kind of on the margins of society as far as economics go, but just because they dared to want a piece of the artistic aesthetic pie.
Yeah, but I think it worked in our favor. I mean, it was, as you mentioned, the King Charles Valley Who.
Yes.
Oh, it was awesome. We were making fireworks.
Yes.
It was pretty darn fun.
Yeah.
And then we got on the front covers of many things, almost at will.
Yes.
Because it was fun. I mean, it was newsy. People liked the ruckus.
Yes.
Carl's ideas were good. They worked. And people ordered a lot of our zines. I mean, I just
Yeah.
The slush pile, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think
Yep.
we had our own in-house zine. And I would just reprint those things. Someone would send me maybe files, or I can't even remember how I did it all. Through Kinko's, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Kostecki was editing it from like Thailand or South Korea, and he'd send it over to you, I think, for the printing for the first one.
So Steve was a great anti-tourism writer. This was tourism writing that had never been seen before.
Right.
Writing about the sex trade from in Thailand. I mean, this was not in print in English anywhere.
Right.
It did not exist. And but yeah, he was doing the expat stuff that had never seen the light of day.
Right.
That was kind of neat what he did. I don't necessarily want to jump way ahead, but we had good fun.
Yes.
We moved to the Amado house, and then we did Philadelphia.
Yep.
Philadelphia was a good show.
Mm-hmm.
And
Detroit.
Carver,
Yeah.
she joined in. Was like saying like, this looks like fun, and she's awesome, and that was good. We had a good time.
Yep.
And as things picked up speed, at one point I just decided, like, we're really hitting a good point here. I think we should publish. Like, this is time for us to put up and show our writing.
Right.
So I did
the emus. Wild Bill.
And then Texas Gang. But I developed that the cover scene.
Yep.
The consistent graphic. I mean, I think it's important to have like a look.
Yes.
I think it was a good look.
Yes.
I'm still proud of it. It was a party style looking book theme.
Yep.
Here
James
they are,
Nolan.
Steve's book.
Kostecki.
Another one by
Wild Bill.
Blackfellow.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do one for Jack. He didn't like it for some reason. It had a similar cover. It was in the theme, and it had a beautiful, beautiful artwork that he did of some kind of a crab. I can't even find it anymore. But when he died, his website went down.
Yes.
And I've been wanting to put it back up, just like to have it exist.
Right.
And his family said that I could, but I just have been busy getting this teaching degree.
Sure.
So I will do that at some point, but I do want to do something more for Jack still.
Yes. Well, he kind of had it was ULA Press. You were the main publishing arm, but there were like affiliated things that Pat Simonelli did, Saunders' book. Bukowski never did this.
Right.
So there were various couple other like oddball things that also came into the line like that. So he might have been even before the other ones.
I think they would reuse the little logo thing.
Yes.
That's on Pat's book, I believe. So there was a structure there to build on. But this line of books, I mean, if we ever could have got it going, it was a massive work that could freak people out. And, your book about the, indie band was awesome. It was a great work about the indie band guys. Their house was so great.
Yeah.
The missing floorboards, couches that had to cross to get to the living room, and then the practice space in the basement. They had to get it by a ladder in the basement with the band practicing on pallets with water all around.
Yeah.
And
Terrifying.
The electrocution hazard just was hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a contribution to the field, and I think it should be remembered.
Yeah, the books were great, and like mainstream publishing should have been all over it. But I think their gripe against ULA was we can't write, they suck, and that was their line. And then the books came out, and there was no way you could say that without looking like an idiot. So they just ignored it. Effectively, is what they did, because it was very hard to get reviews. We got some, but not to the extent we didn't get the Village Voice article or the big write up and even a hatchet job in the Believer or something. It was just like they just wanted to pretend the books didn't exist because they couldn't discredit them by saying they were bad.
You and Carl did a great. That was a key move. Your tour, the book tour.
Yes.
that would have been required, more of that. And you guys did the model, used the template, and, you guys were having fun, and it was a good thing. It could have worked. It could have been repeated.
Yeah.
If you would have cranked through a few hundred copies, I mean, if on the road trip you'd made like $500, that kind of could pay for a road trip.
Right.
The model could have been further developed. But, we didn't have a repeatable thing that really worked. Another thing that happened that was comical at the exact moment I launched the whole thing was we imploded. I mean,
right.
The members themselves just began bickering.
Right. That was always a characteristic of the ULA, a lot of strong personalities. Yeah.
It was pretty funny. So as soon as we got the book launch and you guys did the tour, the thing melted down.
Yes.
And it may have been that Steve then died the next year. That didn't help.
Yes. There were a lot of, people would come and go. I think I had left at one point. King Carl even left. I think Frank was kind of running it for the last few years. It was still around. But there was just, the Jelly Boy, I don't know if it was a print book, but he did an e-book in the line. So the line did continue for a while. But, yeah, it just seemed like the ULA anthology, which was supposed to come out, never came out. Just a lot of tough things. I think the other thing that hurt was the Great Recession hit. Like the next year, and then all of a sudden, nobody had any money, and for people living on the margins already, that was particularly damaging.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah. That was not easy, you're right. We kept the website going a little bit. The Monday Report kept popping out.
Yes.
But the momentum went away. I got the whole line carried at Skylight Books in Los Angeles,
yes.
bookstore. The staff was into it, but without some kind of support, I just realized literary publishing was so dysfunctional. There was no other way in other than through one way, and we had no access to it.
Yeah, we never got to do a West Coast tour. That would have been good. I did see the books on the shelf at Skylight when I went there a few years later. They were still there. They sold some, but I was still able to, I think, Emus. I might have been able to find Carl's book, too. So they still had them, but yeah, they at that point they weren't pushing them because it had been a couple years. But it was cool to see them. Yeah, that would have been great.
So that was fun, but it was... I think indie books, the recession, indie bookstores all closed.
Yes. Yeah.
There's not much still around.
Right. Even Borders went down. The big, another out of Michigan as well, another Michigan connection. That went down entirely. So that was a big blow, too, even though we weren't necessarily in Borders, but just for book publishing in general. It's hard enough to get by. Tower Books folded, or Tower Records folded. All those things happened around that time. Yeah.
I had all the titles in wholesaler directories. Anyone could have ordered them. They were real books in the system, but we were missing that important piece of whatever it was.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably money. Even if we'd had $10,000 to pump into a promotion thing,
sure,
the thing maybe could have happened. But who knows? Maybe the recession just was a gloomy thing.
Well, the book publishing is so weird. Back then, we were able to get into things like the New York Post and New York Times and big newspapers and magazines. Today, you can't get especially an indie book. They all the books that they promote, they're paying to get reviews and things like that, and all sorts of even famous authors. It's crazy. So the little indie guy, other than your hometown newspaper, it's pretty hard to get a review anywhere at this point without paying for it.
So I think we were in the action at the last hot point to be in the action.
Yes.
I mean, you don't even think of Dave Eggers. Dave Eggers doesn't cause a stir anymore.
No.
But he was at that point. It was a sweet spot. I suppose if I could have got this line out a year earlier, it was touch and go, and we just lost. We were the losers.
Right.
If we had struck when the iron was hot, when we were getting the front page coverage, that would have been good.
Right.
But I think I was busy because there was not a recession at the moment.
Right. Well, I think also people expected at some point somebody, one of the Soft Skull or one of the big indie publishers at that point, they were talking about doing the anthology. So that would be somebody pick. I think you kind of did it just because, like, if no one else is going to do this, we're going to do it. And, expanded the zines. But we were kind of figured somebody would come along, but they never did, just because they were so opposed to either ULA's ideology or whatever the reason was. They just never went for it. And I remember, I think before you published the book, at one point I was unemployed and I sent the emus out to like a literary agent, and the guy was like, "Oh, we'll publish it, but you got to make it from one character's point of view." And to me, that defeated the entire point of the book, because the book's about the band. That's the whole point, is all those voices. So it's like, I'm not going to do that. I don't care how much money you do. But you made the books happen. They're out there in the world. They're still waiting to be discovered for readers. They all hold up. I read Emeryville War a couple years ago. Still a great book. Still reads very well. They can tap into those books anytime. So that's great.
The emus with all the voices. I mean, whoever told you that was a bad concept, it's completely wrong. I mean,
Right.
It's a great concept. It's a remarkable concept. It's pretty.
I think they just wanted it to be like all the other rock and roll books, and have the band be successful at the end, and just follow because that's what sells, and that's what they're about, money, not art, and we were about art, and that was the main thing.
And I think the art would have actually sold.
Yeah.
This is a viable product. Like, you could sell this out of your trunk of your car if you're at shows doing gigs.
Right.
That has all changed. We were in that sweet spot where something could have happened.
Right.
And today things are, I'm out of it. Things are so crazy now, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yes. Everything's streaming or digital. We did a bit of that. We had the e-books and whatnot, but it's amazing the change. It's amazing books still exist at all, or records still exist.
Yeah. It is strange. There's probably still potential for doing something. YouTube videos. This documentary would be like that. But it's, we caused a ruckus. No one has caused a ruckus in the literary world before or after. We made it fun for a while.
Right.
And it was good fun. And there were some good characters. And you and Crazy Carl were an excellent team.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
And Wankless had that cool voice of his.
Yes.
And he was wonderfully obnoxious.
Yes.
And, that's a talent. He was good.
Yes. Yeah.
The protests were legit and interesting.
Yes.
Colorful.
Yeah, after the books came out there, the Howl protest was pretty big. That one, I think, was 2008, and then they did some other stuff after that. And then the group, you kept the website up, but the group had kind of, I don't want to say became defunct, but kind of very inactive.
Right.
Whether due to the Great Recession or just had ran its course, I'm not sure, but it's about that time point. How long did you leave the website up for? You left it for quite a few years after, right?
Probably, must have been, just coasting for 5 years, as long as I wanted to pay for the domain.
Right. Yeah, literaryrevolution.com. Yeah. It's probably, somebody can buy it now, they'll probably want to charge them $1,000 to buy this website.
Websites are, today, they're of low value. Domains are uncool.
Yes. Yeah.
You're listening to the Carl interview, Crazy Carl interview, about his spat on the vine. I felt bad. He talked about, we interacted with editing and things.
Right.
One thing I talked him into, it was a give and take feedback relationship, but I thought his punctuation was so irregular.
Right.
His writing was also so irregular that I thought if we normalized the punctuation a small amount, it would make the writing more accessible. But now, ever since it happened, I've missed the crazy punctuation.
Okay. It's part and parcel.
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have convinced him to monkey with that.
Right.
Because it was kind of beautiful in its chaos.
Yes.
And he still breaks the rules. He uses ellipses just everywhere.
Yes.
But I think we reduced it to like 3 types of ellipses rather
Right.
than an infinite variety.
Oh yeah, I've had to edit his stuff before. It's tough going as far as like getting it standardized. Yes.
So I feel bad for messing with that part of it. It was his instinct. I ran it by him. I said, "What do you think? We're breaking all the rules already.
Right.
Do we just want to, will the punctuation throw people off or not? We could make it slightly less crazy in punctuation, and maybe the text would stand out more. I think the punctuation was great.
Yeah, it's still a great book, so it works. Whatever we did. Once
it is a great story.
Once the books are out, we get Jelly Boy comes in. There's a couple other ones towards the end. There was the guy from Florida, right? McGirdle or something was part of the line. It might be. It was like Cannery Row, but it was like an updated version.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that must be around here. McElderry.
Yes.
Chicanery Row.
Yeah. So that was, there were a couple other ones in the line here, and then what happened with the ULA? Did you leave at some point officially, or just kind of just wound down, or how did that work? Because people left over the years.
Yeah, I think we just quit. I mean, there was nothing official about it.
Okay.
We just stopped.
Okay. And what do you see now as the legacy of the ULA now after the main period in the 2000s where it's pretty active?
Well, probably no one even remembers it, really. It's my impression. But the legacy was during the hot point of the zine revolution of the 90s, we drew attention to it as the zine scene was winding down. So it was less relevant at that point, and the internet was picking up speed. So we just caused a literary ruckus when it was still possible to.
Right.
And we had fun, and we did. Our legacy is we questioned things and caused a stir.
Right.
And I think that was cool. The funny thing is maybe a year or two ago, I talked with the owner of Microcosm.
Okay.
He's still working. He's still doing stuff.
Wow. Joe Beal, is that right?
Joe Beal, good for me. Thanks for remembering that. I'm lucky I remembered Microcosm. He does hundreds of things still. It exists.
Wow.
It's kind of cool. I think he still does print. He does stickers. And he said someone should do a history of the ULA of his own initiative. I mean, we weren't chatting about the ULA.
Right.
Just brought it up. So that impressed me. I thought, so there's someone, he's even really busy, like he remembers it.
Right.
And thinks it should exist.
Yeah, that's cool. I've been I think in Portland they have the house that's a bookstore, or maybe even where they publish from. I went in there. That was a cool place. Tons of zines, and that was a lot of fun. It's just kind of in a residential neighborhood, at least a couple of years ago when I went there. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, the anthology is only available as an ebook, so if anybody wants to do it in print, certainly that's a possibility. It would be nice to get it out in the bookstores of the world.
Right.
The remaining ones.
Is Slush Pile in the anthology? Is there samples of a variety of things?
Yeah. It covers pretty much every member that agreed to put something in. There were some people we couldn't track down because they had died. Other ones, like Jack Saunders, had already agreed to be in it, even though he died. Lisa Fuller was another one, so we included them. But if unless the families gave us permission or there was a previous permission, there were a few members who had died, so we weren't able to include. And there were some people who couldn't track down, no matter our best efforts. I mean, I was mailing things out and calling and emailing and even using LinkedIn, whatever I had to find people. And then some people just kind of wanted to move on. They just didn't want anything to do with it for whatever reason, and said no. But for the most part, everybody was into it, and I think it's a fun read. It gives you a good idea of what the group was like, particularly the writing.
Nice. Yeah, that could interest people. And then an actual history would be someone putting media together or feedback from the outside world.
Yes.
Did you reproduce any media stuff or any reviews or any headlines that we got?
No, none of that. So I mean, Pat's I think planning on doing some of that in the film. So he's already doing that little video showing things, photos and what have you. That'd be fun if somebody did like an oral history.
I think I have a box of, our press, our clip arts or whatever, our cutouts from the media,
Yeah,
of the various magazines that covered us. I have samples of most everything that came out.
that's awesome. Yeah, there's probably quite a few. They did get quite a bit of attention.
Yeah, so I've saved that in a box. Someone might want it someday. That McElderry guy, he was a cool guy. He died since then.
Oh, okay.
He was a musician and had some good CDs, and was also related to a marine scientist. He was
Okay.
a neighbor to a guy who was a marine biologist who ran one of the only independent marine labs. And that man, Jack Rudlow, did it because John Steinbeck told him to.
Okay.
So there was this connection with John Steinbeck and this marine lab.
Cool.
And there was a character in Cannery Row who was kind of like a bum, and his name was Mac. And McElderry actually took on that personality over
Okay.
decades, living next door to Jack Rudlow. I mean, Jack Rudlow and McElderry were a parallel to Doc Ricketts and Matt in Cannery Row.
Right.
And it was actually in real life. I knew both of them at the same time, and Mac was like Mac,
Wow.
and Rudlow was like Rickett. And it's remarkable. And Rudlow was given this commission from Steinbeck to do something unique in American literature and science.
Okay.
So, there's kind of a funny tie-in there with McElderry doing some underground literature stuff. And Rudlow wrote a novel I published for him.
Right.
He sold thousands of that.
That's awesome.
And he still has his science lab on the beach in
That's great.
Florida.
Now, are you still OutYourBackDoor.com still exists? Are you still publishing and actively distributing and all that?
I still fill orders for Amazon.
Okay.
Make orders. And every now and then, I'll get orders every now and then from Amazon for this one.
Okay. Awesome.
This game. I think yours would get orders of a print book. I
Yep.
mean, that was more viable for print.
I'm just kind of a control freak, like everything in house. It was awesome
Yeah.
experience.
But those two would work. And the Jack Rudlow novel would work. And I think that would be, I think I published that under Out Your Back Door, I think.
Okay.
That was just something I did for him apart from ULA. So, yeah, I still fulfill orders on Amazon. And Amazon is interesting because actually, even though it's hard to break through, there's an actual chance for a little guy
Wow.
on Amazon. If people wrote in, reviews, buzz can be created on Amazon.
Cool.
And I know a guy who, even just 2 years ago, he and a friend wrote a novel based on their years of growing up working on Mackinac Island.
Okay.
It's a tourist place,
Yes.
and people love it. And he wrote a story about life on Mackinac Island, being a kid and working the island.
Cool.
And it's on Amazon, and I think it has hundreds of good reviews, and he sold thousands of copies.
Wow.
On beach reading along the Great Lakes.
Right.
People buy that book.
That's great.
And I think it's self-published.
Right.
So,
Well, their print on demand, Amazon's pretty good. I've used that. I still use that. So it's nice just to have something out there, and then they take care of all the printing. They're pretty good about paying royalties a few months later. That works
right,
out.
and so can you do email?
Emus is not. I've done the subsequent because I still have copies of the print book. So I just figure once that goes, maybe I'll do a print on demand edition event. But I still have copies so anybody can fulfill it. It's not on Amazon anymore. There's always the one bookstore that tries to charge $70 for something, and even that's gone. But I put it up on eBay just to, at the regular price, the $15, saying it's
Right.
available.
So you don't want to put it on Amazon? You could yourself just.
I had problems with Amazon like that, like stocking books. Like they seemed like there was a tendency where they didn't want to deal with small timers. Because I used to sell, like I did half.com in addition to eBay, and then eBay bought half.com, and half.com was a lot very easy because you just list a book and it took 1 minute, and the order comes in, you fill the book or whatever. Amazon kind of took over from them, even though eBay tried to do that, it wasn't quite the same. And I would do Amazon, then like Amazon just would randomly stop getting orders, and they'd be like, okay, you got to reapply to be a seller. And it's like, what? And they just kept doing that all the time. And my guess is either they were really unorganized or they just didn't want to deal with a bunch of small sellers, and they were kind of weeding people out who maybe only sold a few books a year. Because it was viable. Finally, I just got fed up, and I just sent that business over to eBay, for what was there. But half.com or an Amazon where you could just list something very quickly would be great. But Amazon's bureaucracy just got to be too much for me. For the amount of money it was bringing in, it wasn't worth dealing with.
Right. It's funny, I sell on Amazon in two ways. I mean, I have a regular publisher account still, which I don't even want to have. And then I've given, the print on demand to them for quite a few things, which is easy, and you don't have to mail stuff.
That I do, yeah.
Yeah, and otherwise, I found them kind of, like when there's the official listing for a book, and I want to change the price, it's hard to do it.
Yes.
Through them. So I just say, hey, click that button, you have a copy to sell. And I'll list a brand new book for $5.
Right.
Just because I won't crank out old back stock as like an individual. And it seems easy to me.
You might be doing high enough volume there and hassling you. Like it would be a book I read. I'm not trying to not move a ton of things, so I sell them as I get them. But they just wouldn't. And they would do odd stuff too. Like you try to sell a comic book, like a graphic novel, and they'd be like, oh, you have to be an official Marvel seller. Like, everything was just a hassle with them at some point. I just said, forget Amazon. I don't know if I'll ever go back to them for that. But they were very good with the print on demand and the ebooks and things like that. But just trying to the whole point of selling on them, at my point, was it was easier to list on them than eBay. So I'll just sell these books real quick here, and you're only making $1 or $2 on them because they're selling cheap, an old Camus novel or something. But after a while, if it's just too much work, they want you to constantly reapply for no reason and send them your driver's license, and you got to go through customer service. It was just crazy. It was like, okay, I'm not doing this.
Wow.
I think they were trying to weed out small sellers, honestly. They just didn't want to deal with as much stuff. So probably if you aren't selling $100 worth of merchandise a year, they don't want to be bothered with you, which makes sense for business-wise. Yeah. But, I mean, it's nice. Well lasted. Sell 20 books a year that way, cheap books, that's fun. But that's good. Well, I don't want to take forever here. We're probably starting to run out of time, too. I'm not sure if this Google Meet, if it wraps up after an hour or what. Any final words on the ULA or anything you want to say? Or
do you sell any music on Amazon at all?
I go through a distributor, and the distributor does sell on Amazon. I don't think I've ever sold any just because people don't listen to my stuff, and there's a zillion bands out there. But but I'm not directly doing it at Amazon. I used to do CDs, but again, they hassled me about you have to be an official. It was just ridiculous to sell on there at some point.
CDs are toast. Are you on iTunes with any of your music?
Yes.
iTunes of them?
Yeah, they should be everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. Basically, you go through the distributor, and they distribute it worldwide, and then they collect any royalties that come in.
So your music is available on Spotify, like that?
Yeah, Wred Fright, W-R-E-D, and then F-R-I-G-H-T. Yeah, there should be 3. It's solo albums. I pretty much play everything. Occasionally I'll have somebody guest, but that's pretty rare.
Well, that's nice to do that. I have maybe a couple albums of people who did good work and died.
Oh, no.
And
okay.
Don't have kids, and I would like to get the. It's a project to do.
I would say SoundCloud is the best way to do that, because you can get a free account, and put it up on SoundCloud, and you just make an account for each artist. That's pretty easy to do. You can put it up on there. That's usually I'll release like the music that's freshly made on SoundCloud, and then once I have an official album out, like enough singles or whatever, I'll collect it and then I'll send it to the distributor, and they send it everywhere else at that point. But yeah, if you just want to get it out, SoundCloud's pretty good for that. The only reason I kind of do the distributor as well is just because it doesn't really bring in any money, honestly. Is just that if something happens, I've had this experience where I was like on mp3.com and they close up or they get bought out, or MySpace Music, same thing. Like all your stuff disappears that you created, so they figure the distributor, they're just going to send it everywhere, so it'll be floating around there. I don't have to worry about it. You just have to watch out if you do a distributor. Some of them charge you up front, and if it's not something that's really going to be lucrative where you're going to get royalties, 100% royalties doesn't do you anything when you're paying $20 an album to get it out there. Mine is just they get a share of it, and they're nice. I think they're called Root Note. They're out of England. If it ever does catch on where I would make more money with 100% royalties, then I would pay the fee. But till then, I'm happy to split royalties for the little pittance that's coming in,
Right. It is fun keeping this artwork alive somehow.
Yes.
It's my main trust. So it doesn't just totally disappear.
It's hard with self-publishing. I tried to solve the second novel. I solved it. It was just like a pay what you want, free download, and people could copy. That's how we did the ULA anthology, because I didn't want to worry about paying royalties on that. Just send it everywhere. That's pretty fun as long as people are still interested to keep it going. Because that's it. If you're a self-publisher, like with Jack Saunders stuff, like once he's dead, I mean, who's there to publish it? It's gone after the website pulls the plug or what have you, or it's just used books in stores. So that is an issue. I mean, Bukowski got picked up by Fox and News Corp or whatever. And they have them everywhere, and they'll keep him alive as long as he makes money. But for the smaller self-publishers and whatnot, indie publishers, assuming there is a demand there, that once you die, that is a big issue. It's gone. And then you have the booksellers trying to make $100 a copy because it's rare and stuff like that, where it's not really accessible to the average person anymore. Bootleggers, I guess, are somewhat of the solution to that, pirates and whatnot, because they put everything out.
Well, for the ULA heritage, I would like to keep things somehow not dead.
Yes.
That would be the future idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
That'd be about it. And I'm happy to have met everybody. So the ULA was this period where it was kind of like the whole zine scene. Kindred spirits found each other.
Yes.
And there was no official way to do it. We made our own way, and then we had fun.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. There were images of like the Justice League and the Fantastic Four, and it was like that kind of, particularly the Justice League, people coming together, or the Avengers coming together, to form a group more than the whole of parts.
Right.
A lot of fun.
Well, then there's the trading cards. Thinking of Justice League.
Yes.
I think that was King Wenceslas' idea. I can't remember, but trading cards.
Yes.
To pump us up as heroes. I mean, I assume, did you get a trading card?
Yes, those were great. I think Leopold McGuinness was maybe the designer. Yeah, those were awesome. Yeah.
They were great. So I still have some of those, and that just was good fun.
Yes.
And I don't think anyone has done that before or since in the literary world. Really, maybe they have. I haven't heard of it.
I think Eclipse did a Beat Generation trading card set at one point, but that's the only other thing I know of. Yeah. So we're in good company.
Yeah. Well, nice imagery. But I was happy to meet you, and very happy that you and Carl came by the house.
Yes. That was great.
And the big parties we all went to. So I did the New York party, the Philly party, and the Hamtramck party.
Yes.
They were all good. And I like hearing Crazy Carl reminisce about Hamtramck.
Yeah.
But that bar, I remember, was called The Raft. And I remember there was a pit bull in the bar. And I just thought, well, that's cool. Only in Detroit. Those dogs in the bar. And there was another bar just down the block called the Whiskey Jar. And it was actually in the neighborhood. And I'd never seen that before. I don't know of another case where, amongst houses on a street in a neighborhood, you could have a bar.
Right.
I think kept zoning or something. We just had never seen it. But, Hamtramck was pretty cool
A
then.
true neighborhood bar. Just right next
Yeah.
to 3 houses down from the rest of the houses. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good time going,
Yeah.
seeing the gang in Detroit.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, we did the Wild Bill interview, and I was a little worried because he's up there in age. I was like, we better interview Bill early on. But yeah, I remember he was at Hamtramck, he was at the New York City ones, and then of course he was present with the books, and that was fun to see. He's still going, yeah, still kicking
Yeah.
it.
I hope he's doing well. I mean, he was always such a, hale and hearty mindful guy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great. His story is excellent. His story is great. And there was a book of his that I think I would like to publish one of these days. It's erotica between
Oh, wow.
a rich artist lady and her brute-like bodyguard.
yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah,
Wild Bill was, a wild, tough guy.
yeah. Pat King said I didn't have to worry about him dying or anything. He said he's going to outlive all of us because he does exercises. I was like, oh, he's still up there in age. I want to interview him first.
Sure. Yeah, him and his pit bulls, that's just a great concept.
Yeah. He still has dogs. Yep. I interviewed him. There were dogs. Yeah.
I mean, I did not appreciate pit bulls before knowing Wild Bill.
Yes.
He helped me see the good side of pit bulls,
Yes.
which is nice.
Yeah. He's got always has a dog. That's for sure. And they become characters in the books, in the writing. Yeah. That's awesome.
So, yeah. I'd have to just say I was happy to have done